Welcome back. I'm talking with Nick Kollerstrom about the Falklands conflict. Now, before the break, Nick, we were talking about the ownership of these islands. Now, if, let's just say, hypothetically, that Argentina owned Jersey and Guernsey, or the Isle of Wight for that matter,
Yeah.
would British people be happy with that? Would we, and if we try to live on them or what have you, send troops there, would we accept the fact that we'd be kicked off by some country on the other side of the planet? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, well, I doubt it. And they might take the very logical view that if you own the place, then your ships can't dock in British ports. You know, there might be that implication, which is what South America has now said to the Falkland Island people.
You mentioned another island, Nick, that Britain has control over.
Well, the islanders of Diego Garcia were simply told to get the hell out of their home by Harold Wilson and shipped off just so Britain could give that island to America as a military base.
Right.
And
and they now have approaching 800 military bases all over the world.
Yeah, so if Britain does that why should it do that to Diego Garcia if it's going to give the Falkland Islands the right to be British and remain British as long as they want to?
Now let's bring in the question of oil, Nick, because there's oil in that region, is there not? Is this not the real reason why Britain wants to maintain ownership of that area and possibly the water around it? I mean, where does the ownership of the water end? Is it so many miles out or something? Or do you know?
I think there is oil being found there and developed, and but it's not very evident that British technology by itself can, in the very stormy waters of the
But as we know,
Atlantic.
Nick, some of these oil companies, they span national borders. They're not focused in one particular country. They've got huge resources and vast amounts of money.
Yeah.
And if they've got the backing of the British government or the American government, then they can basically go and get the oil, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought most people would say that any oil down there should belong to the Argentines, not to Britain. I would think it makes sense that oil in that region should be used by Argentina. I can't see any logic whatever to oil in that area being used for Britain, personally. Yeah.
Yeah, you were telling me about a book that's just come out, Nick, Silent Witness.
Well, there's a new one just come out called The Silent Witness by some guy Thorpe who was working in intelligence for the Falkland Islands. And his last chapter, he claims, I actually wrote a report from Margaret Thatcher called The Sinking of the Belgrano. And that report intercepted a hitherto unknown message ordering the Belgrano to turn round and go back into the exclusion zone and attack British ships. Now, this has to be total make-believe. He's doing this just to sell his book and just to give a government-approved position coming up to the 30th anniversary. I mean, you can't have a message suddenly released, which GCHQ would have intercepted, ordering the Belgrano to go back into the exclusion zone. Any such message would have found its way into the Crown Jewels document, which Clive Ponting looked at. And that was, and also if there had been any such message, it would have been absolute manna from heaven for Margaret Thatcher. It would have rescued her from all the difficult questions that people were asking her. So we've had two books come out now, both pretending to have hitherto unknown order revealed to them, ordering the Belgrano back into the exclusion zone. There's the official history of the Falklands campaign by Sir Lawrence Freedman, who gets knighted by Tony Blair, right? And then there's this year, the book by Thorpe, worked on intelligence during the Falklands War. They're both making this totally unsupportable claim to have secret evidence, which they're not saying anyone else can have a look at it. It's not in any way visible, this evidence, but it's been disclosed to them, and it's used to then ratify the story of their book. I think it's important to see this as these are fabrications put up to try and marginalise and sideline the people who are now dismissed as conspiracy theorists who are trying to find out the real reason for the sinking of the Belgrano.
Right. And so do you know, has the current government, British government, made any statements on the Falklands recently?
Well, yeah, Cameron's engaged in, he has to respond to America saying saying there's negotiations have got to happen. And obviously the British government is very upset about that. And Cameron's made some remark about colonialism, which is perhaps rather ill-advised.
What can you give us the gist of his remark?
Oh, he was trying to make out the Argentines were being colonialist and wanting to have a claim on the island, which I think is rather outrageous, and it just irritated everybody. But I think and I hope that some stuff will be released over the at this 30th year anniversary, and it will help to get a real reconciliation and understanding, which we need for the future of those islands.
So do you think that there'll be a media turnaround then in terms of perhaps some of this information will come out in the mainstream media in order to move the public to accepting
Doesn't look like it.
transfer?
I'm not that optimistic. No, I think there'll be a whole lot of cover-up stories and endorsing official British machismo.
Yeah. But doesn't that put us at loggerheads with America then by taking that stance? Do you not think America understand the problem that the British government are in? Not that it's a problem of their own making, because as you suggest, the war probably could have been avoided and should have been avoided from what your evidence suggests. But America they're not really bothered about that, you think?
Well, they're under pressure. There's South American Confederation. They need good relations.
All of the South American countries
they're fairly
sticking together and saying to America, look, Argentina should eventually at some point either have shared ownership or some timescale transfer.
Totally, yeah.
They're all saying that to America, and America is saying, well...
America's under pressure to accept that.
Right, okay. So what you're saying is that the influence of all of the South American countries is possibly as big as Britain's influence in America, so therefore there's this political football, if you like.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Right, okay. So, but you can't see that then? Our government actually start negotiations with some kind of time scale for either shared ownership or transfer ownership.
I haven't got a crystal ball for what's going to happen in politics, Richard, but my business is to try and get out the true story of what happened 30 years ago and why was enormous amount of deception and cover-up necessary by the British media and the British government, and can we try to get the truth of what happened?
Yeah, I mean, if we can just widen the discussion a little bit, Nick, I'll just pop a philosophical question.
Right.
A philosophical question, and if you just consider the Earth to be like a dog, and we are fleas living on the dog, the fleas draw these lines on the dog, and they call them countries, and they say, well, this is our bit of the dog. We're going to live on the ear, and there's no way you lot are going to come over here and share this ear with us. We want you to live on the arse.
Right.
So we've split up the planet into these things called countries that we fight over. I mean, for me, saying that you own or you control or part of the Earth belongs to this group because we fought for it is a bit like saying that we own the air that we breathe. We're all on this planet together. I mean, I don't have a problem with everyone sharing the planet, right? Which might be considered a globalist agenda.
Globalist agenda, yeah.
But I don't see anything wrong with a globalist agenda as long as it's not done by stealth, which is what globalists are trying to do, the likes of Kissinger and Zabriskie and what have you.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring about a global government which is going to be very controlling and you might call it communist or corporatist, where the people don't really have a say and there's an elite governing billions of people. That's what they're trying to bring about. But I would say that there's nothing actually wrong with globalism if it's done with the will of all of the people.
Yeah.
Because as you say, we need to get rid of war, and no one's ever come up with a solution for getting rid of war.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're looking at a wider perspective, people say, oh, Thatcher was right because the Argentine government was so terrible and had massacred so many of its own citizens. And this Falklands War led to this collapse of the Argentine government, and they're quite glad to that she helped get rid of it. So, I mean, there are different aspects in all this. And the one thing I'm totally committed to is that people want to talk about it, they've got to talk about it on a basis of knowing what really happened. And we've got to have transparency.
Yeah.
We must not have a secret state which can cover up what it did and say, oh, we're not allowing you to reach decisions on the matter. I mean, just about everything you read about the Falklands War now is based on untrue conceptions.
I totally agree, and I've said this many times on my show that the statement "it's a matter of national security" is just a complete and utter whitewash excuse. It just allows them to lie. It allows them to commit crime. Why? If you published everything about the Falklands, about these messages, how is that threatening national security?
Yeah.
Is some foreign nation going to attack us because we've published those documents? Of course not.
Yeah.
It's not really protecting national security. It's protecting the people who took those dodgy decisions.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at one of the most distinguished witnesses we had, Clive Ponting, I think everyone would like to have him around now. And obviously, for example, if you got a chance to interview him in the coming months about what happened. He was a civil servant, he was at the heart of it all, and he would have authority that journalists and politicians would listen to if he were. Now, he's nowhere to be found. We spent quite a while trying to contact him, find out where he is. He's somewhere in the Bahamas or somewhere.
So what was his role in it, Nick?
Well, his role was as civil servant. He was employed by Michael Heseltine to get all the secret dossier together, the crown jewels, and to advise Heseltine about what he could say in public. And he then, as we saw, he then notified Tam Dalyell about all this.
Right. So basically, he's effectively knows what happened.
Yeah, and he then wrote a book called The Right to Know. Okay.
Right.
Quite a lot of
and do you
books.
think that was that an open book, or was he just writing what he was allowed to write?
No, that was about the truth as far as he could find it out. He said the truth is still hidden. That's what he said in his introduction to our book. The
So he
truth is
hasn't
still
actually
hidden.
published the full truth then?
Well, he doesn't know it. None of us know it. That's the thing.
Right.
Because so many of these vital telegrams have been deleted and whatever.
Right.
Now, what I'm saying now is that Clive Ponting is not going to appear. I don't think he is. I think he would be in danger if he did step forward now. I think that's the climate we now live in, and there are several other people I could mention who will be totally key witnesses who could come and testify. The media would really listen to them. I mean, I'm just a sort of discredited conspiracy theorist, and I'm being called a Belgrano. That's what Belgrano. That's what.
I've never heard that word before.
Belgrano. That's what Lawrence Freeman has used to dismiss the people who go on about it. Yeah. Now, people who would be totally credible are, it seems to me, not going to dare to step forward. I think they would be in danger, like Clive Ponting, and I think he's going to keep well out of the way till this anniversary is over.
You think Clive Ponting is a closet Belgrano? That's how you describe him.
Well, if you want, but he would. People who would have authority are just not going to step forward now, and instead you're going to get government cover-up agents to give
Spin.
sort of speeches in spin. Yeah.
You're actually in the process of setting up a website covering all of this, Nick, and there's various audio files and what have you on the site.
Yeah, there are two of the Belgrano action groups still around, Ted Hayward and me, and Ted had amazingly still got all the audio tapes from our inquiry, and we put them up on the website, so you can have the thrill of hearing all these top experts actually speaking about what happened, their understanding.
And give us the domain name.
Belgranoinquiry.com.
.com. And you're developing that site now, so that people can get information. And
yeah, for example, I hope to get this book up in a Kindle book or something available on that site.
What, a free download? Or to buy?
Well, I'm not sure. It might be free, yeah,
Right.
Richard, but that's what we're hoping to do, yeah.
All right then, Nick. Well, good luck with that website, and thanks for joining me today. It just remains for me to say, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night.